Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money. Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Of businesses around the world. My name is Innocent Odo, and today we are on a new track in the Federal Republic of Nigeria. We have just elected a brand new president in the name of Ahmed Bola Tinubu, who was declared a winner of the 2023 presidential election that was held last Saturday by the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC. The president-elect scored a total vote of 8.8 million to beat his closest rival, Atiku Abubakar, and of People Democratic Party, PDP, and the LP candidate, that's Labour Party candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, who also had about 6 million votes. And so today, we are going to look at the issues that have arisen from this presidential and National Assembly elections on Saturday. And there were so many of them, especially on the use of technology to conduct elections in Nigeria. Remember some time ago, we brought you a topic on how somebody from faraway Kenya, who came to be a keynote speaker in the leadership conferences and awards. I'm talking about former Prime Minister of Kenya, Raila Odinga, who actually raised the issue that technology can actually be used to rig elections. And of course, today we are seeing something that may not be really very comfortable in Nigeria with the issue of the deployment of technology to conduct elections in the country. On Saturday upon the elections, it was alleged that the INEC was supposed to announce the results, or rather to upload the results in the INEC portal. But that eventually did not happen. And it took them so many hours after the elections before they actually, in fact, used the manual method in transmitting the result. And that raised a lot of issues, especially from the opposition camps, who are really fuming and frothing over the matter. And of course, raising issues that the elections have not shown some transparency. And they has, in fact, the elections have, in fact, reduced the trust in the system. And so that is the way where we are at the moment, where the use of technology, or rather the failure to use technology, is now dogging the issue of election and raising some controversies. And so this is one topic that we're going to look at this day and see how far we can go in trying to also offer some solutions, if need be, for future elections. I'm not alone in the studio. I'm here with my regular guests, an ICT expert who, in fact, in one of the previous editions that we had, actually raised the issue of this INEC deployment of technology to the issue of election conduct in the country. So we're going to look more on this particular matter. I'm not alone in the studio, like I said. I'm here with an ICT expert, Ahmed. You're welcome to this program.
Thank you for having me.
It's always good having you in the program.
It's good to be here.
And then we are in transition moment where we have actually, in fact, elected a new president in the name of Bola Ahmed Tinubu. Now, but then the process of this election, the deployment of technology, once again, like we discussed the other time, is before us. The opposition parties are crying foul that the INEC, despite all the promises that they have made to upload and transmit a result electronically, in fact, failed to do so. And they are alleging that because they didn't do that, a lot of their votes may have been, upturned, and then some results written in favor of the candidate that just won the election. I know there's a controversy in town, and there's anger also in town in certain camps. Even though a lot of people have appealed for calm and peace, But you don't appeal for calm when there's a feeling of injustice.
True.
So the injustice should be addressed and addressed squarely. What is your general impression about what happened on Saturday?
Well, I am to be frank. I tomorrow again. I will still advocate for the use of technology, and the reason being, now we know our voting strength.
Yes.
The introduction of beavers into the electoral process has now practically given us the actual people that vote. We're not talking about who's winning or who won what polling unit now. Now we know the actual people that vote. And we're looking at about around 24 million people.
Yes.
Out of the 87 million thereabout that have collected their PVC. You get, so if 24 million people voted, so the previous election that we used to get up to 30 something million, where have the voters been coming from? Because this tend to be one of the election that has high turnout.
Yes.
And that high turnout tends to rally around 24 million. That means we should be looking at the actual people that have been voting in previous election should work within the range of 18 to 20 million. If there is an high turnout and that high turnout caps out for 24 million, then it means the previous election, the actual people that voted in previous election should be within the age of 18 to 24 to 20 million. And if the result that comes from previous elections tends to be within the range of 32 to 38 million, it means more than half of the results from previous elections were rigged.
Yes.
So it means it is who rigged more that has been winning. Now we know the actual people that vote. We know the actual people that invariably means that for me, technology should be improved upon. It's not as though that the technology failed, in my own opinion. It just means that it was not probably activated or deployed as when it should be. Yes. So, and I have raised the issue before now of the possibility of rigging with the transmission.
Yes.
I wrote an article, I think that was on the 25th of August last year, that was published on your paper.
Yes.
On e-transmission of results and the possibility of rigging. And this was clearly what I made mention about in the article.
Yes.
That the transmission process, it looks simple. What the article said then was that it looked simple, because what INEC has been saying is that it's real time. We'll transmit it real time as it's happening. You'll be seeing it. That's a simple sentence. But we, being technical, we know the complexity in making that simple sentence become a reality. And that complexity is what has made Nigeria or the election and bring about the whole advocacy of the rigging as the aggrieved parties are claiming.
Okay, now is it not really very, very disturbing? Because when you make promises on several occasions that the beavers and the other forms of technology you intend to use for the elections, that they are super ready for the elections and the people should just wait and see how the deployment will work effectively. And so we believed him. We also gave him the chance to go to the international community to speak to the world. He was in Chatham House before the elections, and he also visited some international fora. Now, there were also nations of the world who also engaged some INEC officials in technical trainings of issues like this, so that they will keep them ready on the D-Day. So there's this high expectation from INEC that this particular project, that is electronic transfer of results, will be perfectly, use my word for that, done to the satisfaction of most people. But then it happened that all the promises made seem to have been shattered by that act of Saturday, where they couldn't. In fact, sometimes when you even visit the polling units, where the INEC polling staff have been detailed to do the work. You see them struggling. What it then means is that it's either they have not received any technical training to upload this particular result, or they, in fact, were being used to compromise the process.
Okay, well, in my opinion, I would not rule out that possibility that some of them, or parts of them, generally some of them, may have aligned with some other persons to compromise the process. But looking at this objectively, this is speaking from a professional standpoint.
Yes.
Referring back to that my article.
Yes, indeed.
I made mention of the fact that in my research of the technology that was used in the Osun election, in ensuring that the document gets converted from PDF to JPEG, from JPEG to PDF, that they're using they're using a public cloud or a service considered to be serverless. And the serverless service, which is a service I believe they got from Amazon Web Service, really does not, it auto scales itself. So you pay based on the numbers of conversion that it is able to do. So if they, professionally now, I believe that service, as at the point of conversion, was not active. That is why they were unable to transmit, because it needs to be transmitted. After transmitted, it will be retrieved, then converted before it is now displayed on the IRF portal. You get, so the serverless computing service is not supposed to, because I heard when they were saying that it was a technical glitch, and it's as a result of them being unable to scale up their servers from a regular state system to a national system, for a national or general election.
And that's another problem.
That was what they said. But the serverless computing does not, it doesn't, you don't charge, it charges you based on what it does. So it makes all its resources available. So you don't even need to scale it. It scales itself. So it is either they probably must have given cap, which I believe they didn't, because if they had given cap, it means that it would have started, then it stopped. But in this case, it was not even going at all. You get?
Yes.
So is it either they must have given cap, or that service must have been completely shut down?
Wow. And there's a lot of things that are now coming up. That now you want to use election, you want to do a major election of this nature, and when you made a budget for such gadgets, for such technology, the government will oblige you and budgeted huge sums of money in the tune of billions. Now, of course, there are some assistance that the INEC got from international organizations like maybe European Union and the rest of them for this purpose. Now, how do you now explain, after all this support and the billions upon billions that were given you to produce this technology and use them effectively, what kind of excuse do you think INEC has in this instance?
Well, they will speak for themselves, and I believe they will come up with something that the year should be okay with. But if we are to align it with the compromised, the acclaimed compromise process, if we are to align it with the budget and the amount that has been spent in the process, the excuse should be able to tally with it. If the excuse does not tally, it's a huge concern. But again, I would not rule out that technology remains technology.
Yeah, technology remains technology, but then deploying technology to serve a purpose like this. I know we are in a sensitive time. Elections are very, very sensitive. You can see the towards the run up to the elections, the rhetorics, the war words, the threats, and all the other abuses and the rest of them. people carried emotions into this election, and that emotional investment should be to translate into. INEC should have made it possible that there should be something transparent. People can trust. I remember there are some international observers who are here who actually raised the issue, like the European Union said that the process lacked transparency, and actually reduced the trust the people have in the process of collecting results. But generally, of course, we know that the elections were peaceful, apart from isolated cases of violence and some blood snatching here and there. But generally, it was a very peaceful election. But then, the issue of INEC failing Nigerians in this aspect. Because why we're saying this is that the opposition parties are now, let's say Labour Party, the main opposition parties, Labour Party and the PDP, are threatening to take the matter to court. And that, yes, that's a legitimate right that they have to do so. And that INEC must explain to Nigerians why they have used technology to, in quote, cheat them out of the race or out of an election they supposedly won. Now we're back again to this same issue that elections have been declared as having been won and the people are aggrieved, and then we're going back and forth, all because an institution that was saddled with responsibility to do its own job for which it has been paid for, and then investment made in that regard, and they completely, didn't make that. And if you look at the Electoral Act also, the Electoral Act made some provisions by way of transmitting the election electronically. And so why is it difficult now that after you have made so much investment in this technology and the technology failed, then there was a very poor communication at the end of it? Because when people were, even Nigerians in the diaspora were actually waiting to view the results in the INEC portal.
In fact, there are so many persons. We are just looking at the resources that have been spent on INEC. We're not looking at the resources that have been spent by situation rooms, because different political parties engage thousands of youth in their situation room for the sole purpose of getting results from the IRF portal.
Yes.
And collating the results directly. Now, the results did not come. So you have to pay people that did not work.
You can imagine. But that, of course, not their fault, because
they came to work. So you didn't make provision the resources that they would need to use to work.
Yes. So
we were not looking at that's also part of the funds that have been expanded as a result of the lack of the process. We're not doing about those that believed in the process, came to register in July, went back abroad. I'm talking about Nigerians in diaspora.
Yes.
That went back abroad, came back in November to get their PVC, went back, came back in February for the sole purpose of because of the confidence they have in the trust that their votes would count. Now they are back, and it's as though nothing. They wasted all their resources,
all the effort,
time, and all that.
Yes,
so it's sad, but again, there are many things to learn from it. We don't throw away the baby with the water, with the dirty water. So there are a whole lot of things to learn from it. We've not mentioned of the fact that you capture a lady's face was captured as a result as result sheet.
Yes, you can imagine those kind of things.
We've not mentioned the fact that national result is finding itself in Lagos. You get so there are so many lapses, so many challenges, so many things that need to be put in place. The first thing is that we need to deploy. We need to integrate with what we have existing. We need to integrate a hashing system, an encryption system that ensures that result is captured, is digitally signed, so that it cannot be changed anywhere again. That digital signature must be embedded in the next process. We need to integrate blockchain technology into that, so that it's not as though that it is one person that is holding it. You don't rely on one server, rely on blockchain-based distributed system server or distributed systems technology, whereby it is not, the data does not reside in only your system, it resides in everybody's system. You get? We need to integrate AI to be able to capture, to be able to detect result sheets, not somebody's face.
Yes.
Yeah, so it means there are processes that needs to be improved upon as a result of what we've seen. So we need to learn from the process as a result of what has been experienced so far.
All right. If you are just joining us or you're still with us, we've been talking about the controversy that dogs the use of technology in Nigeria's presidential and national assembly elections that were held last Saturday. I've been in the studio with ICT expert Ahmed and talking about issues arising from that election. We're going to take a short break. When we return, we'll continue with the discussion. Don't go away.
For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.
Money Radio, discussing the business of making and spending money.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, we're talking about the controversy that dogged the election of last Saturday, where technology appears to have failed in the deployment or the uploading of the INEC results that eventually triggered some misgivings among Nigerians and some members of the international observers who queried the transparency process of this whole technology deployment. I'm still in the studio with an ICT expert, Ahmed. Ahmed, before we went on that short break, now INEC came out rather late in the day with the communication after a lot of people have waited for hours. Now, is it not possible that if anything had happened to your system, probably maybe it was hacked and you needed to do some amendment, I think some amendment measures. So why would they have waited for so long in a thing that involves technology like this? Because when elections were, when we're done with the elections as maybe as late as 5 p.m. or 6 p.m. in the evening, people were already waiting for the results to be uploaded in the INEC portal. Now the results didn't come. All of a sudden, we started hearing results being announced from the states. And so that raised the suspicion. And so with the communication, I mean, there's a communication gap here that INEC that was supposed to tell Nigerians what has happened to the portal didn't speak until even 10 p.m. on Sunday night. That is the problem. That created that feeling of, oh, this might have been doctored in order to give advantage to certain people.
Well, yeah, communication was a huge concern. They didn't communicate at the appropriate time. But even when they were communicating, the reasons they gave did not match up with what the technical profession of we in the technical field think it should be. Mm-hmm. Because if you are giving us reasons of, let's say, hacking, it would have even looked, maybe it was an attack, because and there's an attack that is called denial of service that prevents legitimate users from using specific services.
Yes.
So if the legitimate users, being the polling unit agents, are unable to upload as at the time they were supposed to upload, then it means that there is that possibility that a denial of service attack was happening on the server. But that was not the reason they gave us. If that was the reason, yes, it invariably would mean that there will be delay in upload, but the upload will eventually come.
Yes.
But the reason they gave was that there is technical glitch and they were trying to scale up the server. And scaling up a server that we know already that you're using a public server, a cloud-based server. When you're scaling up a cloud-based server, it really doesn't take at most 15 minutes to scale up a cloud-based server. So it's not supposed to take a full day to scale up a cloud-based server. Yeah, so the reason they are giving, in my opinion, does not match what we're seeing or what we're experiencing. So sadly, it had to happen. It has happened, and again, I would say we would learn from the process. It is learning from a process that makes us better. Now we learned the huge gain for me in the election is the fact that we now know the actual people that vote. It is a huge gain for us. As a country, now you know what to drive towards. You know how to redesign your electioneering process because now there were so many unused ballot paper purchased or printed but unused. Why was that? Because you never knew the numbers of actual people that used to vote before. You just work with assumption, and people were now. If you look at it, it was less than, if I'm not mistaken, less than 30%.
About 20%.
About 20%
Yes,
of voters.
Yes.
Yes, that's it's poor, but it's accurate. The previous elections, it has been assumptuous. The data, the voters has been assumptuous, so we don't know the actual. But with these beavers, now we know the actual. Now the next thing is to tackle the transmission. And I believe when we tackle the transmission and mandating the transmission from the polling unit, ensuring that all those things happens and order at the polling unit using, I believe the 10th Assembly has a whole lot of work to do in the electoral process because there are so many gaps and lapses. Is FCT considered a state when counting the two-thirds and all that? So many lapses in that I believe the 10th Assembly would look into and clarify in the electoral act.
But that issue of FCT is actually clearly written that if you the president will have to be declared as president only when he has scored 25% of votes in 24 states. That's 2/3 of the federation and the federal capital territory. So you can see that conjunction there is not selective. It's absolute.
Yes, it is.
So I don't understand that interpretation that FCT is no longer a state when the constitution.
It will not require the court to interpret. So, and the process of the court interpreting, we know how our court systems can be at times. But again, before the court interprets, or whether the court would interpret or not, whether the court interprets or not, it must be clearly probably either rewritten or clarified in the new electoral act that would be signed, and we don't know. We truly don't know if that will be signed in the 10th Assembly. But again,
okay. Well, as we begin to round off the program, we are maybe I don't know how the Nigerians who came back from the diaspora, and where some of them coming from countries where you have these technical competencies in ICT management like this, are coming to see this kind of disappointment. I don't know how we can encourage them to come back and vote next time, because even those of us who are here, some of them are already enraged and threatening that I know one or two persons that are threatening never to participate in any electoral process again in Nigeria because they have been, in his own words, duped by INEC that they have a professor who only professed does something that is not professable. That's his own. I'm just using his own words now, and so you can see the level of disappointment in this thing, and many people are already discouraged. And so, how do we, as a people, encourage these people to come back again and let them still feel that there's hope for the future, irrespective of the challenges that they were faced in this particular one now?
Well, for me, I would say that we're growing when our democratic process is growing. What we're supposed to do is to learn from already existing democratic processes that democratic countries get. We are barely 30 years in the democracy, and there have been countries that have been over 60, 70, 90, 100 years. So we should learn from them. And one thing I've come to realize is that in their own democratic process, three major drives that build a democratic process: freedom, transparency, and accountability. And if we are able to bring back these three ingredients, no matter where people are, whether they are abroad, they are within, they will always come back. They will always come out to vote. But if these three ingredients are missing, the freedom is missing, the process is not transparent, and the commission is not accountable, then more persons would lose faith in the process and would not vote, and we begin to see 5% of citizens determine who becomes president or who leads them.
Wow, it's been a wonderful time discussing the issue of the use of technology in Nigeria's 2023 election that just held on Saturday. I remember we still have another round of elections on March 11. This time we're going to the polls to elect new governors and members of state houses of assemblies. So I hope those of you out there who are shouting, we have been cheated, no, you can go back to the polls and still elect your governors. Don't lose hope in the federation. Don't lose hope in the system. There might be one or two challenges facing us as a people, and we already have created an avenue where those who feel aggrieved over this particular matter can take up their grievances through the legal means in order to address the problem. And it's on that note that we'll call it a day on this important topic, and we wish to have more of this time to discuss matters of this nature as they come. I wish you all the best and remain calm. I've been in the studio with Hanel. Hanel, thank you so much once again for joining us. It's always a pleasure having you here. And so we out there, Nigerians, you remain calm, remain peaceful. If you have any means to show your grievances, please, you have to do that in a very, very legal way. You have to approach the courts and take other legal means to address your problem. Stay blessed and have a wonderful day.
Thank you for watching. For sponsorship and advert placements, please contact 080-3688-6158. Last Word Leadership Podcast Studio. You have the last word.